The lecture is really about the effect of automation on the future of jobs. There's an optimistic view, there's a pessimistic view. The optimistic view is great. It'll mean all the boring jobs will go and people will be able to concentrate on higher value activities and that kind of thing. And that's what comes out of all the people who are promoting automation, and they want it to happen even quicker. But of course, on the other side, there's the idea, well, first of all, are we going to then have a just big rise of unemployment? If machines or if robots will be able to do all the things that humans can do, what will humans do? So there's obviously that fear, and it's not just a fear of redundancy, of losing their means of living, but of losing what gives meaning to life, which is people's lives for thousands of years, ever since we gave up the hunter-gatherer society, have been structured around regular work. And if you don't have any more of it that you need to do, so what are the psychic and spiritual consequences of that? And there have always been these two views, I think, about work. The economists typically think of work as a cost, the cost of living. You have to, you work because you've got to. And they normally think people don't like work very much. And economists tend to think people are lazy by nature. They only work because they've got to. And so they look forward to a better life if people work less. People will be able to do more of what they want to do. But there's another view, which is that work is a source of meaning and value for people. So those two attitudes, I think, feed into the debate on automation that's going on at this moment. And I discussed the two views, really, the optimistic and the pessimistic view. The things have changed, rather, because before we used to talk about mechanization, and we mainly talked about robots replacing humans in factories and in more manual workplaces. Whereas now we feel that they're going to be able to do anything that we do, only better, probably more efficiently. And so you get this idea that there'll be some lovely jobs at the top and lousy jobs for everyone else, because people will only find employment, or most people will only find employment in things that robots can't do. I mean, of course, there'll be anything that requires person to person. But, nowadays, if robots get as good as we think they're going to do, they'll be able to pass what's called the Turing test, which is we won't be able to tell in what way they're not human. So even that sort of range of jobs might be shrinking. And then you have this terrible prospect of what are humans to do. And the appeal to history isn't actually that persuasive, because in the past you can always show that one trade after another was made redundant, but then new ones always developed. Obviously, at some point, people didn't need horses to drive them to ride, but then they got cars, and so all the horse people became car drivers. But now you have the possibility of or likelihood of driverless cars, driverless machines of all kinds. So you have this constant encroachment of machinery on work First manual work, now cognitive work, eventually emotional work. Where will it stop? And how will humans adapt to this kind of world in which having to work for a living is reduced, but having to do anything now is optional? And I think that's a huge psychological trauma, and we may not be able to put up with it. This involves also the question of distribution. I think people fear redundancy partly because they don't know how they'll live if they don't have an income. And what's been happening is that most of the rewards of increased productivity have been going to a minority. And many people are forced to work at meaningless jobs. David Graeber, who unfortunately died recently, called them bullshit jobs, because they've just got to. And it's not that they want to go on working and working and working, but they have to in order to just keep living. And so that is a source of increasing discontent. And I end this lecture by really pointing to the political consequences of growing inequality, largely as the result of the machinery we're putting in, the cost-cutting, labor-saving machinery that now all companies are increasingly wanting to do to save money. And what is its political effect going to be? You have a growing population of what are called left behinds, who know they're in meaningless jobs, but they have to do them. And of course that's a setting for populist dictatorship and the decay of democracy. So I really end by saying, look, are we just destined to become slaves to machines, or do we have a choice about our future, which way to go? And the whole of the lecture series really revolves around this question of whether machines are liberating or whether they're entrapping.